It is my distinct pleasure to be here for World Unity Week, June 20th, and to welcome Josef Princiotta.
Any way you say it, Princiotta.
Come on in and tell us, please. I'm just going to send it over to you.
Making it, and the reason that you're making it more than it is flattering. Now I have to live up to your introductions and such, so I will. It's always good to listen to being introduced, because then I know who I have to be. And because I can be a lot of different things. My presentation, is the one that looks like two, the two that show themselves as one, or something like that, but it's body language. And so even before I go into a presentation, I usually ask the audience about that. But today, I'm going to share the screen with a few slides that I have for this presentation. At the current edited rate, they total 226, I think. So we better get to them. The title, as I say, is it's a bit of a koan. And I made this title up for what's coming up. I thought I would only be showing bits and pieces of slides if it was just Shannon and I talking. But since we got the time to go through it, I tried to answer the question about who I am and what I've done. I'd be happy to describe any of these particular ones in detail. The 6 different inventions that I'm inventor of record on, and my concept about self-healing might be of interest at some later date, and there are links. I do some sculptures that are large, and I luckily, during the oil boom coming up, Larry Carr and Barney Gottstein, a liquor dealer and a wholesale grocer, gave me the chance to build this whale 50 years ago. So it's the 50th anniversary of my 30-foot bronze called The Last Blue Whale. Thank you, Barney and Larry. This is my opportunity to memorialize Howard Robart Hughes. Why do I show it? Because my body language is built around face reading. I'm an individual who sculptures photorealistic human faces. For the courtroom, I do medical malpractice sculptures in wax, the same wax that Madame Tussaud uses to produce human organs. On the back of the coin, I designed and sculptured a tribute to, let's go here, let's see, a tribute to his father's invention that founded his involvement with the movies. And yes, he had a brassiere design. He cared about the ecology. He had all kinds of records of flight, invented satellites, and of course, had the goose. His eye was in the center of the circle, and Las Vegas, Nevada was in the center of the circle. But in this case, he was sitting in the plane, and fortunately, so was I. I'm sitting in the seat where Howard Hughes parked the Spruce Goose. Before it got moved to any place, this is where he sat, turned the keys off, and walked away. That's the day of the photograph I used. This tube is his oxygen mask. And if the picture were wider, you'd notice there is none for the co-pilot. So I do smaller sculptures as well. The ball is 6 inches in diameter, and there's a lot of tricks in this sculpture. Particularly if you know how dolphins mate, you know that the male is always on the bottom. Okay, I can't hear the laughter. This is another one, the ball is 6 inches. She's springtime just covered in bugs. And she even has goggles that are the eye. I love puzzles. He was married to a Gemini, and he wanted a pendant for himself, and he is a Taurus. So I made the Taurus and the Gemini in the one piece of jewelry for a man who was a floor master of a shift master at the Sands Hotel. And that's how I got recommended to do Hughes. This is a small sculpture. Actually, this one's in silver because he's looking at a real gold nugget. Behind him, you see the vest. That particular sculpture is solid gold. I did a whole series of Alaskan characters, trying to show you that I'm interested in anatomy, trying to show you that I look at, oh, this is called The Raven's Dream. And if you look close, you'll notice it's a self-portrait. I'm the Raven. So I had an opportunity from Playboy because I did a lot of criminal defense work and for 14 years kept residence in Las Vegas. But shortly after I got there, the Playboy photographer I was introduced to knew of the sculptures I was doing of women. And so we became very good friends. And I did work on his sets and such. And when he photographed the Playmate that would be Playmate of the Year, he came to me and said, Deborah Jo, and I knew her, she was September, my birth month. He said, Deborah Jo will be Playmate of the Year. Can you solder a bunny on a silver comb? And this is what I ended up with. It has a whole story about her on the front and the back, and that's her combing her hair in '78, before the computers took over with porn. This cover happens to be a cover that Playboy used in their promotions for a long time because it was, I can't get in there. Okay, you don't need it, trust me. The most popular cover that Playboy up until then had. And again, my autobiography is Thank You for the Gift. This is what I did with it. I never could have come to Howard Hughes without the gift of and the gift of. And so it's a communication thing that my body mapping is all about. By recognizing, we'll talk about it deeper in here as we look at, yes, hopefully within the time we have, I'm going to tell you some of the things I read when I look at your hands or your face or your ears. And if you don't know, I've been rather successful at doing it. I tell attorneys ahead of time how the jury will vote. I do it with such regularity that I get hired to do it rather often. And I have on occasion actually put it in writing. So-and-so juror will vote this way, etc. They call me the Alaska's jury guru, and I put purple around that because I love it. Okay, so what is body mapping? Well, mapping is a technique that I use that allows me to recognize your style, and most importantly, it gives me the opportunity to anticipate when you're going to express your inherited personality traits, nurture, nature. What is the nature of this, in the case of juror, this potential juror? What can I tell the attorney of how this person is going to react? But what I'm doing is no shamanistic stuff. It's no mantras. It's nothing at all. It's just looking at the information that we as humans always transmit to each other in our body language. It's easy for me because I'm teaching you what you already know. I do have a purpose. I have an objective. I have a goal for you. I want your intuitive self to communicate with your logical self. Okay, some people are going to call it your rational self, but it's the two of you that need to communicate with each other. And one talks in songs and pictures, and the other one is doing math. So the topic is body language. If that's what it is, let me say, I'd like to ask you, what is body language? Anybody? See, it's audience participation. If you have an idea of what body language is at this point, now time-wise, 226 slides, if you don't want to give me your opinion, I'll give you mine, because I'm going to work you in like a stage magician into my words, right? Ultimately, you're going to agree with me. I'm going to go to the next slide and say, okay.
Well, I could interrupt though. and,
Sure.
and, and say to you that, to me, body language is what I use every day in order to convey my interest and to keep people interested in what I've got to say. Zoom, you're very constrained by the box within which you are set. And so being expressive by use of hands and facial expressions is very important.
An excellent overview of the fact that you use body language to communicate it on this medium. How do you use your body? Oh, that's my automatic. I have an automatic. Charlie, don't turn the camera off like that. Charlie, okay. Charlie's my cameraman. It's a string that goes over the back of my computer and slides a little thing over my camera or slides it back, depending on how I pull the string. So you've done a wonderful job. You've told us how you use body language, but what do you do to show you move? You take a position. And movement or position are the two words I wanted to get you to. So now that we're there, we can go ahead and find out that I use body movement and I use body position. And I go further. I make judgments by your body shape. I make judgments by your body form. And yes, I make judgments by your body color. Wow, this is going to get heavy. Okay, now if body language is movement and position, something's got to happen before you're going to make a movement. You all got to have what we call opportunity to move. Okay, I got an opportunity to move. And what do you need? Well, I got to have the freedom to make the move. Okay, you got an opportunity to make a move. Okay, you got freedom. Okay, and the primary, you have got to have desire. Now, in body language, can we find desire? Because in the active position, the same rules apply, and ultimately, you get to desire before you're going to take a position. The jury's going to take a position. Whoa, jury's got to have a desire. Yo, I think we're on to something. Let's see. If desire is the issue, where do we find it? Where does it originate? How do we deal with it? How do we know how these people deal with their desires? You knew this was coming. You knew that desire begins in the right brain. Desire is a concept. Desire is not defined. Desire is understood in its completeness in the same instant that you remember in its completeness as much of last year's summer vacation or a memory of what the baking your mother did in the kitchen on Saturdays used to be like. You know the whole damn story right there. And if I asked you what was it like on Saturdays, you'd talk to me and it would start to string out. But the memory of it is just like the image of what you desire. You know it in all its detail until you have to explain it to somebody. Now, how does that work? Well, it's communicated outward through the right side of the body. I love to call the right side of the body your press secretary. She'll say anything to cover up how you really feel, what you're really going to do, or what you really did. She will come forward and negotiate for you. She'll give you alibis. She uses the left brain and doesn't really understand what the hell that dream of dolphins was all about. But honey, you can keep trying to explain it. And honey can't explain her dream of dolphins because she knows the dream completely. And as soon as you wake up and say to your next of love. What was it? Oh, it was a dream about dolphins. And you've shifted over, as we know, corpus callosum took away the dream as a picture and made it something that the right side of the body, what? Ambidextrous? What do you mean? Okay, okay. I don't know if we got anybody in the audience left-handed. We should have 1 in 10. As far as I know, what about them? As far as being ambidextrous, I have a question. Real simple. Then you tell me which hand I'm dealing with. Okay. Because there are people who will put the left side in first. But let's look at the body. Yeah, the liver on the right side. Now, the stomach and the heart, we know what they do. And the heart and the stomach are on the left side. What's that, doctor? Okay, all right. The heart is partially also on the right side. And if you're going to get medical with me, what does the right ventricle do? It pushes blood not into the body. The right ventricle pushes into the lungs. After that's good oxygenated blood, the left ventricle pumps the body. Thank you very much. I get that every time. So when you lead with your left hand as a left-hander, now the answer is you truly have your heart on your sleeve. So when they're asking the jury to speak, what hand does the microphone go into? How is this person working? Because if they have their hand on their left hand out to the world, they may not understand the double entendre. They took your meaning at face value. They didn't realize people don't wipe their feet before they come into the living room. The heart is out there. Now, the benefit, of course, is when you shake hands, you got your liver on your sleeve. If it works, fine. If it doesn't, you still got your stuff. If you're able to make that separation. If you're not, then your heart is out there and you'll learn how to write and protect and talk and etc. So why is this true of right-handers and left-handers? This is obviously important. You saw how the slide arranged itself to get your attention, because if I could teach you anything today, it would that I am completely convinced that we are, in fact, 2 individual personalities being monitored by the midline being of the self. We are 2 bodies compressed so beautifully that it looks like one person to most people, but we ain't. We are the midline being. You are what? The midline being. What do you mean? I mean, turn sideways for me. Let me get your shadow on the screen, cut it out very carefully, show it to anybody who knows you, and they know you from 2 dimensions. You're in the middle at the thymus. You're in the middle where your vocal cords join. You're in the middle with the pineal gland. You're in the middle with everything, including the navel and including all of the nerves and the reproductive organs that are for you. All of the part of the reproductive organs that are for somebody else, or that which is off the midline is an offering, is for other people. My stuff is right down the middle, and I monitor between these 2 bodies that are recognizable to me. So that's the 2 that show themselves as 1. Now let's look at the one who shows itself as 2, shows itself, because it's very critical to making the judgments that we're going to make on the faces we're going to look at. When you're judging people, what kind of judgment are you making? Is it a value? Is it a rating? Is it that you're trying to find out the difference between them? Well, in the universe, I say the universe is a work in progress, but it is a universe. And frequently, one thing looks like 2 things to us. Oh, I pushed the wrong button, and that's the wrong button.
Cool.
Is that 2 things?
It is.
It's
No.
2 things? Okay. Is this 2 things? Hot and cold? 2 things? Here's one. I got a positive side of the battery and a negative side of the battery. It's got to be two. No, all of these things are clearly one thing showing itself by its presence or its absence. And we know that nothing in the universe is absolutely cold. Everything has a little bit of a heat signal. But we don't pump cold away. We pump heat away to make cold. We remove the heat. To fix the cold, we add the heat. So it is with the other that looks like it's two things. It may not be two things at all. It may just be that it's one thing, present or absent. So we're not looking at people to find good and evil, right and wrong. We're looking at the right side and the left side, recognizing there's some differences. It makes a good understanding of their approach to the world, but we're not judging them as right and wrong. I don't know if I put the new slide in here yet. No, I have another slide that may come up later on, and it points out there is no criminal type. I can't judge a criminal type, say this is he or she's a criminal type. But if you tell me they're a criminal, I can tell you what type. I can tell you that the hedge fund manager who's really a crook, the Madow, would never take a steel pipe and meet you in Central Park and rob your purse. And the guy who would meet you in Central Park with a steel pipe wouldn't have the slightest idea what a Ponzi scheme's all about. But they're both criminals. So this is what we do with it. And we're looking at folks. And let's see if we can move further. I'm getting a little bit of a hesitation in my internet service. So I'm saying, repeating what I want to say, but the bottom one is the whole message of this slide. Is there a method whereby we can send our message to the people with whom we need to communicate, and when it gets to them, it feels like their own message? That's what I mean by this. And that's what the attorneys and the rest of the team and myself would work on. And how do you figure that out? Well, I can't figure out by looking at you what you do. I mean, that would be just really some kind of psychic something that I can't do. But what I can do, and what I do for the attorneys, is I predict how you're going to do what we know we want you to do. I know what you're going to do in the court. You're going to be looking at this and this. We're going to hear from him and her. We're going to show you this film and that film. We're going to ask you to handle one of these and see how they work. And all of those things, I know how you're going to do it. So I can, well, yeah, but I can. So what are inherited personality traits? Can I demonstrate in some way that the body actually does indicate these kinds of things? That in your body, shapes and form show me something about the personality. Your movement shows me something about your current thought. Your injuries or the rings you wear show me the things you're remembering. Show me the events and the situations that are important. So I'm working on this idea with you as the midline being in the mind. Who are these two bodies with whom you're discussing everything? And how does it balance out for us? Because on that wire, without the pole, you fall down. We need to be able to know a place where we don't want to be, and the opposition of it where also I don't want to be. But by knowing both of those, we stay on the wire. So if desire begins on the left, and you're going to communicate it out the right, and we know that about the right side, what is it with the jury? What have we learned from the jury? Where is the final decision? It's on the left side where the desire to see a vote, excuse me, originated. When it felt good, they voted. When the vote got taken, then my verdict, my decision lies in my heart side. Now, that juror will give you all kinds of BS about why and wherefore, and that's what this message means. Jump over the next several slides, which all of them were trials in which I've been involved, and you would not believe what the circumstances were going in and what happened coming out and blah, blah, blah. Get on with it, Joe. Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, that one, and then this one. Bless PowerPoint. Okay. So if those things are true, and this is the heart side, and we got a liver side, let's start to look at, okay, he's going to say it again because he cares so much about it. Two bodies trying to look like somebody. Let's see if we can get to them. And we'll start with the ears. There was a button in there I didn't click, and it would have jumped over those other 5 slides. Gosh, Joe, you got to get this into your, oh yeah, we all know this, don't we? The whole body's reflected in the ear. We know that from acupuncture. It's one of the charts I use when I'm teaching. You don't need to know all the words around there, but the whole body. The idea is what? The idea is that the whole body is reflected in the folds and the shapes of the human ear. Now, if that were designed to funnel sound into my head, well, we'll get to that. So if the eye is represented there, then the earlobe is the top of the head. And you've heard people say, here's what I'm giving you off the top of my head. And they just give it to you. So what I'm saying is, if the earlobe is the top of my head, and oh my God, I never thought of it that way. Oh my gosh, the ear is the body of the brain. Should I let that sink in for a while? Does that raise any kind of question? What the hell am I talking about? I'm talking about the fact that the human body is a 5-pointed star. It's a head, torso with 2 arms, 2 legs. And that theme repeats itself again and again on different parts of the body, where the head and the 2 legs and the 2 arms show up, and all the internal organs and the hips. And if the whole thing was folded over, it would be a person in your hands and in your feet. Well, it's a person in your ear, and it's the level of the brain. And so if that's true, and the earlobe is my face, then the earring I put on it is like a mask or a hat or something. Is that true? I mean, if I came into the room with a great big hoop on my earlobe, and you imagined it as a hat, it would be a hula hoop on my head. And if I walked up to you with that hula hoop on my head and let it fall, I would have you wrapped. And the lady who wears the hoops will tell you about the story and give you a long story. And the bigger the hoop, the longer the, okay. So you have this wonderful, now you have this terrific guide. You, next time you see a person with the head and the brain, what is it? It's the whole body. The whole body, yes, the whole body is here. And the earlobe is the face. They're going to give you off the top of the head. It's a simple rule that what? Oh yeah, it may not always be the case, because damn it, some people don't even have an earlobe. Oh geez, what are we going to do? Oh my gosh, there's nothing to read. Wait a minute. Yeah, there's nothing to read. Yeah. A person with this earlobe is not offering me the body of his brain off the top of his head, casual comments, easy to read. No, the earlobe, it's under control. The earlobe is under control. Is this an inherited personality trait? I don't know. Let's ask somebody who owns one and see how they are with the, have an earlobe. Hey man, tell me what you're thinking. Not on your life. Now, not the actor, the director, when he's himself communicating with his actors. Do you know the story? Because he is known for maybe 2, maybe 3 takes. That's it. He's known that he doesn't say action, and he never says cut. He says, go ahead. And he says, that's fine. Now, the ear to me is very significant. But there's another body language, notice me, and that's what I used to do on the radio when CKCK and CKOH used to call me for 2.5 hours of morning talk radio. People would call in, describe somebody, and they'd say where the notice me is. And I'd say, is there any notice me around the mouth? And they would say, yeah, when he's got his mouth open, you usually see lower teeth. I said, Jimmy Carter showed you upper teeth, and he goes and does the work. Upper teeth, they're the fingers. We'll learn about that in a minute. Lower teeth, that's the feet. He's a man who's going to talk about his position. Anything else? Yeah, he's got the funniest little mole on the upper lip, right side. Right hand, yep. Business, liver, yep. Funny. I wonder if we can find anybody else with the same damn mark. Would that person speak with some of the same punch that he speaks? I don't know. All I know is she's got the mark. This is a tough speaker with the right hand speech. Bingo. So these are the crazy things I look for. And now we're going to shift from the hands to the good stuff. When we look at faces, what can we do to, yeah, I agree. I agree with this mostly. So then we go into this if I'm teaching in a room, or we go into this if everybody will show their face on the Zoom call, or it doesn't matter what the hell you people are thinking anyway, because I see twice as many faces as you do. Because I'm just that way. And so as I'm looking at the right side and the left side, I am fascinated with what's called a bilateral asymmetry. And very simply, that means that your right side and your left side don't look the same. And there is a message there if we think of the other values that we've talked about already. So here we're going to start looking at, oh, here he is again. Yes, we know this. Thank you. He must think that's very important because look at this. What is the connection between the right side and the left side? Two that show themselves as one. Well, let's, okay, there's another button here, but I'm gonna do this. This is important, especially to this group. We've gone to the right side, left side of the face as far as some values. But before we go into actually looking at faces, I want to look at the face vertically. That is, I believe, and I haven't had anybody write about this yet. I wish I could come across it, because the 6 levels of the human face come from the I Ching. The I Ching, which all of us are somewhat familiar with, I find is best understood with her book. R.L. Wing is a pseudonym. She's a wonderful authoress and puts together a beautiful book. And in it, she introduces us to the I Ching. Perhaps you are aware that the I Ching is 6 lines, but they're made from sets of 3 lines. And I've been working on 7 lines, but that's why I want to talk with somebody who understands it. So when the I Ching is formed as a method of the connecting with the universe, what's important here is to understand that when they put 2 together, as they have here, heaven and heaven makes heaven number 1. Earth over earth makes number 2. And the rest of them fall into a series which we talk about in that class. And you don't need to know it. But what's interesting about the Chinese is that you'd think of 64 possible combinations. Maybe they go from the beginning to the end, and at the end we could find out something important. No, we find out something important at number 63, which is called after the end. And the Chinese do this because they want to look inscrutable, and they do. But I have looked behind the lines. I have said, what is the value to the lines? And R.L. Wing tells me that in order to read the I Ching, you need to know that each line has a value. Okay, are these the values of the line? In very simple terms. Much could be said about each line, but for the sake of the 226 slides, let's condense it to what it is here. And look as we do, and if we go back, we notice that one should be yin and then yang. Well, actually, it builds from the bottom. And then yin, just remember that. Remember that the top one is gentle and open. The bottom one is rigid, and they alternate. And think of this in your own life. Is your wisdom open? Is your authority firm? Are you open at your level of social consciousness? Are you dedicated to your personal endeavors and gentle on your self-interest? And do you rely on your instinct? Yin, yang, yang, going down is important when we apply it to the human face. So to do that, I've given it the coloring, and we'll move over to the face, and we'll look at where intelligence, authority, social consciousness, personal endeavors, self-interest, and instinct, the 6 levels of the human face. Nobody that I know of has written this. So if this is the way, then the messages we'll get on the face from its level of intelligence, its level of authority, where it is socially conscious, how it feels about its own work, how relatively related to its own self-interest. I'm sorry, Jay Leno. And then instinct. Okay, so here's looking at it another way. We have the levels on the face, and we have zones. That is, as wide as my nose is, from an imaginary point in the middle of my head, it comes out as a pie wedge, very narrow. As wide as my eyes are, the pie wedge is a little broader. And then my ears and such, the pie wedge is further. So there's a zone of concern, interest, and awareness. Let's, I'll tell you what, let's look at it from the top. This tells me about where you arrange things. It tells me about where you put your energy. Some you throw to the people on the side. Some of your energy you throw at me. Some of it is visible in your face or your activities. I look at then backwards from those pie wedges to the origin of your nostrils, to the guarded nostril, unguarded nostril. Oh, that's a racial thing, Joe. No, sir, it's not. Look at your black judges, please. Yes? You won't be able to look into the nostrils of an individual who considers themselves a judge. It may be broadly shared by a whole bunch of the members of that particular group. And I suggest to you, they will all act like the fellow who judges the Parmigiano Reggiano with a little stainless steel straw, and he crumbles the little bits of cheese that he's pulled out, and he smells them with a nose. You should see it. And his nostrils are guarded. And the one whose nostrils are very open, well, it's a sale they're having at Nordstrom's. Well, have you seen the stuff? No, but it's going to be great because I just know it. I just know it. So I'm looking at the zones. I'm looking at the cheekbones for this area. The zygomatic arch points me out, corner of the mouth, how far. And then there's the other folks, the ones who see your ears. Now, I don't know if you're aware, but every bone of the human body is reflected in the bones of the skull. All the bones are there. You can find that out in a wonderful book that I really pledge. This is The Secrets of the Skeleton by LFC Mies. He's Danish, I think, and the LFC is just, I love that. 3 initials before you get to the man. But his book is beautiful about the theme of the human body and the theme of our bones. But what is happening, I should have had this here. What is happening is, this is where the head is. These are the knees and such. I'll show you on there. It's a man sitting on my head facing the other way. You're looking at his back, his kidneys, his fingers and his toes and his heel. So if the bones of the whole body are in the head, and they are, and I'm going to try to go quickly through this. I usually talk about the femur and the patella and the shin bones to the heel, to the toes pointing up, and the fingers are pointing down. And this is the elbow, the zygomatic arch. So the structure of the arch tells me about social. The cheekbone, I'm going fast. Kidneys and the eyes. And the interesting thing is when you draw the horizon, everything below the horizon on the skull is squares. Everything above the horizon on the skull is circles. Just some interesting things we talk about in a rather lengthy discussion of the skeleton that I do in a longer when we have time. So we did that. We aren't going to go to the face. We're talking about, let's see if I can get to these folks. Oh, this is where I had put that slide in to try to assure and give you that talk. Now, when people are just generally approaching you, you'll notice that sometimes they talk with their head on the left, and sometimes the head moves to the right. And sometimes when the head is on the left, I think this is what they're generally saying. I know and I feel something, but I can show you and I'll deal with you. That's why the mark on the right lip is the showy speech. The dealing speech was tough. It had an extra defensive little indicator for me. Sometimes when people talk, they talk on one side, sometimes the other. You don't know which side it is. I didn't move his head. I could have in Photoshop, but you know what I'm doing. This guy talked all the time. And when his head was on one side, he was saying one thing. And when his head was on his left side, he was telling you these words. And when his head was on the other side, he was selling you these words. And this is what people do. So when they present and the head is on one side or the other, I know which body owns that part of the conversation. And I know where it's coming from. And so I know if it's a concept or an analysis. Very important which side of the body, but also very important. If this is my wisdom area, oh yeah, it's not how you think, it's just how you think you think. So you think I think it, you think I'm wrong. I'm not, come on. This guy thinks his thoughts are everywhere. He's got it. It shows me. And this also is very important. Get to the point, she says. She'll ask for the details and you can ramble on about your story, but not until she tells you. And that's the kind of person that she is. And when I saw her, I just pulled a picture out to use today. I saw this. This is the brevity of the top of her head. This is how big her story to you is going to be today. The earring may change, but today, don't ask her for a lot. She's not in the mood to give you a lot. She may never be. I haven't seen her before, but I know today with the earring, I should be doing it with this, I guess. That's the reason my cursor is so big. I keep it for PowerPoints. So she's telling her story there. And what is this? What is this? I would need to know if it actually pierces the skin. You can buy these with little rounded little nubs and you can just fit them on there and they just hang. If they're just hanging, if the skin is pierced here or here or here, it's almost always a memory of a very, very, very physically abusive time. The length of time, it can be a thing we don't know, but the frequency with which earrings actually through the skin, or even worse, that arrow that I have seen entering here and exiting here is because that's right in the pelvis. That's the pelvis. This is the spine. This is the mouth, and it also is for her an indication that she would deliver, possibly even premature. She has hardly any ability to retain the child, but that's Asian stuff. Oh, here's a good loan officer. Isn't he guarding his authority? My goodness, right across here. He's bringing his down to guard his whole personal side. He's open on the business, and he's straight with you. He's a kind of a joker. We'll talk about it. Let's look at faces. So we'll get to it. The two that show themselves as one. I use these folks because most of the folks who are our age might remember the personalities of these folks. And of course, I see 4 people here. Let me explain how that goes. I take the face. Let's just push it up. This is from the Associated Press. This is not Photoshop. I've done nothing at all except make a reflection of 2 right sides of his body. Same thing, just go down, take it over, make a reflection. This is 2 left sides. So what the hell is it? Well, let's take a look. This is the side he speaks with, the side he shakes hands with, the side we listen to when he sells us. This is the strength he expresses to the outside. And this, well, this is where his inspiration comes from. This is his heart and stomach and his desires and how he would express them. So I see 2 people. Now, he'll speak as a juror one way, but he won't vote that way. However, it's even worse here. And the reason I say so is because the difference, and this is not Photoshop, this is directly Associated Press mugshots, they used to call them. This is how she looks to the public. Okay, I have 10 minutes before I have to start that other Zoom call for the other people. This is, again, what did we say? This is how she has a handshake speech. Okay, let's go home. Let's go have a breakfast with Nancy. Let's not be Don Regan and hang up the phone on this woman. I don't want to get crazy with you folks, but look what happens to her hair when we do this. Okay, let me go back another slide to get to it, or we'll see. Let's see if we'll see it ahead here. Yeah, this is all seagulls flying, and this is some son of a gun I wouldn't want to meet in a dark alley. And it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean I wouldn't be reading it that way, of course. I'm just going, look at how the strong personality, coincidental, whatever, but certainly when the 2 of them are together, we now have an idea of the relationship. We see them in public, but this is the way they look in public. This is the way they are together at home. And so when I look at them, I'm seeing 4 people. And when I talk with them, I'm looking at which side the head is on to know whether the conversation is selling me or giving me declaration of something that's inside. Well, let's look. Okay, let's let's take briefly. Does anybody remember the story of Jessica Savage, the first woman anchor, big anchor, national television anchor? Oh, Jessica anchor. Why? Why? Because look at the presentation. She's there, going to give you the news, gave you the stories, took the job, and it was terrific. It worked out, except it came from this lady. And the story that I had heard was that it's very unsettled whether or not she actually took her own life the way that she died. Great strain, terrible story, tough on a lady who was so different, took on such responsibility and needed such help and support, but I don't know whether she could ask for it or not. I do know that this face sends a very different message if it's this way. This would be, again, a person having great difficulties, but reserved strength. That's the opposite. This one has the expressed strength, but no reserved strength. And some others, oh yeah, this is really good. Hey, hello, world. Let me tell you who I am. I'm the guy I want to do everything. Hey, this is great. Where are you coming from? What is it? Hey, well, uh-oh. Oh, here's a face to love. What is this? I learned of this guy in Las Vegas. What kind of guy is this? This guy, he's a real special guy. Let me tell you, you just came in on the bus. Let me tell you, here in Las Vegas, this guy, if you got an out-of-state ID, you got free breakfast, man, free lunch, free dinner. There is no free lunch, right? We all know that. So who's Mr. Side? He's not Barry Manilow. No, no. But I met him, man. This guy is great. He's smooth. He's terrific. We got to know. You got to, however, there might be something else going on here. Let's look a little closer at Mr. Cy Hunsney. Okay, Mr. Cy, casino, what do you, oh my God.
Accidental discovery.
I let people read that. I do criminal defense. I did not defend this man. I never met him, although one of the apartments was 2 apartments directly below mine at the Vegas Towers. They had apartments all over town. Okay, all right, that's a little heavy. This is good. This is lighter. You're going to enjoy this. Notice the color change? That was kind of crafty. Okay. Oh, hey, huh? Lonnie Anderson's Love. This is, oh, hey, let's, okay. This is how he wants to be known to the world. And what do we read at the level of the teeth? Personal endeavors, my career, my job, what I do. What is the mustache? The mustache is the male. Of course, my Aunt Edna had a mustache, but we don't talk about it. The mustache on the male is the reputation. If it's a groomed, grown mustache, doesn't have to be groomed to complete. If you grow a mustache and it grows over the lips, this is a fellow who will go back and hide. But if he's showing you the mucous membrane, he's connected, but he wants you to know about him in this way. What do you mean? Well, more material than, well, let me show you. Here's what I mean. Wouldn't he be a different guy if, say, the mustache was different? Wouldn't he now be telling you something else about his reputation? I could extend it more like Salvador Dali and go all the way up to the heavens, because I'm an ethereal man, but he's not. He is a material man, and he wants everybody in the zone of interest, not concern, but the people he's interested in who can see him, he wants them to know he's physical. Well, okay, we've met you. We know it. This is the guy that proposed to Lonnie Anderson. And here's a dead giveaway, but let's look at it anyway. This is the guy she lived with. Like they say, surprise, surprise, surprise. You shouldn't be surprised when people do things you didn't expect. You can see it coming, believe me. Now we're going to go into the hands and wrap this thing up. But What kind of messages do I get from hands and fingers? Of course, show me things. I'll be looking for rings. That's an indication you feel particularly special about that level of life. Which level of life? The level of life each of the fingers represent. We're going to talk about what level of life each of your fingers represent to you subconsciously, and you might be decorating one or more of them with a ring. I'm interested in the shape and the form of the ring very much, but even more importantly, are you missing some fingers? Are there particular injuries that you've experienced? I'm interested in that. And tattoos, very much. There's whole books that the law enforcement have on the various tattoos that particularly end up here, because that's one where when you're in jail, you can do it to yourself for the gang you belong to. And there's a whole about reading those, but I'm interested in your hands. And before I get into telling you what my interest is and what I think the fingers do, I'm asking you to take the time to count from 1 to 10 using the fingers of your hand in a comfortable way for yourself right now. Normally you don't need your fingers, but think about it gently. If you had to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and use your fingers anyway, maybe one hand, maybe two hands, maybe, but please take a moment, count with yourself, and recognize how it feels right now to make a certain finger number 1, maybe by touching it with another finger, but extending it or bringing it in or whatever. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's very important that you remember that, because now what we're going to do is consider the order in which you counted the fingers. Just like with the I Ching, we want to know the value to the finger. We start with what hand it's on, and we know, for example, that the thumb on the left hand is the closest of all the fingers to saying, I exist, I'm here, I think, therefore I am, kind of an existence, whereas this thumb might say present. Got the difference? Let's go through them. The first thing that you come in touch with are the limits and the laws and the rules and the menu and what's available and all of that. You carry it on your left side with kind of knowledge. You carry it on your right side with kind of learned. Now, you come home by 10 o'clock because your mother and I love you. And one is given from one side of the body, one is given from the other, and the only thing the father may do is just tip his head. But you'll notice that when he's talking about what he's learned and he's talking about what he knows, okay, so then what? Well, then I got a finger longer than everyone else. What's it doing? It's looking for what I want. It's looking for what I need emotionally. It's looking for that new car. It touches all the stuff that's really important. It's when I test the cloth and I touch it and then I take a taste. Oh boy. Let's jump over that other ring finger and go to the people who are farthest away from me. Hang loose. You come Hawaii, we don't touch. Supposing we did touch, what? Take that, are you seeing me in my, you're seeing that I'm gesturing in my, okay. If we take that Hawaiian hand gesture and multiply it by -1, yeah, the fingers that don't touch, touch. The fingers that are hiding, express, oh my gosh, I'm a Boy Scout. So you come Hawaii, you're not gonna hang loose. You do your thing, I do my thing, we don't mix. And we do it in private, like a person whose wrist doesn't have quite the muscle to extend itself. And so it is secret because the person has learned when you declare yourself, people don't like me. So I'm not a person who declares myself. And so I say to them things that may open their hands and we'll communicate. So these fingers are hiding, these fingers aren't touching, and the reverse gives us this. It's kind of interesting. So what's the ring finger? The ring finger connects me to those others, which on my business side are the observers, my audience, them folks. On my heart side, they're my students, my patients, again, a general group, but closer to my heart. And so I have a talent that my desires and my emotional goal signified more by emotion and such on the middle. Connect to the public through my talent. And what do I do with my talent? I do my job. So my music is my talent. When I perform it, it's my job. And so, again, where do I wear? Do I wear a ring on my little finger on my right hand because I want people to notice me? Or do I, well, let's get to that. I've got that all mapped out. Let's look at the hands closer and let's see, remembering that one hand is saying about feeling, the other hand about dealing, and we'll look at each individual finger and again say somewhat what we said before about the thumbs. I've got that I am me and that I am here. Who wears a ring on the thumb? Ooh, which thumb? The business thumb has a band on it? What do you mean? Is it a ring or a band, Joe? It's a band. What's the difference? A ring says, notice me. A band says protection, obligation, and connection. So a band on the thumb of the right hand says, boy, this person thinks they need protection in business. A big notice me ring on the left thumb says, boy, this person thinks they're really special. Band on the left thumb is the person whose heart has really been injured. So we look at the thumb and we say that about those things. And then if we went on, of course, to the index finger, we're dealing with the rules and the regulations and such. So each index finger represents limits and such. I know the limits. I'll tell you the Bible. These are the things I have faith in. And 55 miles an hour. Energy comes in different forms. How does that person feel about their rules? I love this lady described it. Black, onyx, square. I said, okay, on the phone. And on which finger? On my right hand. Yeah, I said, on which finger? On the index finger. I said, on the index finger of your right hand. And so help me, I did this on, I think it was CKCK. She said, yes. I said, you sell real estate? She said, yes. The mystery, I solved the mystery. Blackstone, square, not a heart-shaped dolphin embracing thing. Look at what they wear. They're telling you how they feel about that level of life. Middle finger we talked about, what I want, what I'm receiving. The ring finger we talk about is your talent and your job. So the man who wears his college ring on his ring finger of his left hand has college in reserve and relies on it. He wears it on the ring finger of his right hand. When he shakes hands with you, you better mention his college during the next part of the conversation. He wants you to do that. The little finger is everybody out there. The everybody out there on my heart side, as I say, more patience and my students, and then just the audience, the people who bought the ticket, and the rings that say, notice me, and the, okay, we went through that again. So it is that this stuff is really easy. I know you're going to be able to remember all of it because it's really simple stuff, and we don't have to go over it very much. And you can talk to me on the chat. And
oh, Joseph, this has been so much fun, and such an information tsunami. And I so look forward to the next time we get together and talk about even more, because I know you are full of good things to share. And thank you for sharing your slides with us. And would you share your face with us again?
You bet. I'm gonna just had
there
to get
you are.
Bearded Dragon in there. How long did that take us? That took us way too long, didn't it?
Well, be that as it may, some of us had to go back to room one, and I want to leave some space for Pamela and Eva and Claudia and Russ. If you have something that you would like to share with us, please speak now so we can get you in.
Yeah, I only managed to come in halfway through, but that was really fascinating.
Thank you. I'm late starting my people here, and screwing up here. I've got to make somebody host.
Well,
Thank you.
We should let you go and do that, what you need to do.
No,
And
I can do both. What you need to do.
you need to do.
No,
And
I can do both. This is all right.
I can juggle. World Unity Week has been like that. Oh my,
Yes.
the amount of people doing so many different things. I've been, what I've noticed is that the things we do for love far outweigh the things we do because we have to. I'm so grateful to be working with people who are working because they love what they're doing, and they are so motivated to do what we're engaged in. And
I
World
know.
Unity Week has been
I'm
wonderful.
on another Zoom call. Hang on, guys. I'm going to have to put you on mute or.
Oh, you mute us. We'll talk amongst ourselves. What did you think, Pamela?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. It's so fascinating. And yeah, and
I really want to see him actually in action with people in the audience so that we can get more up close and personal with, oh, well, I wear hoop earrings and I've got a story. Oh, man, my earrings are pretty big.
yeah, I haven't been wearing earrings since COVID started, but really that's when I should have been wearing them because that's what's all that's visible on Zoom.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah, everything has changed since COVID. And yet there's so much that's still the same. I'm just, Zoom, I think, is the thing that has really made such a difference, and being able to be together. And the unity has become more vivid in my life. Yeah.
Funny, ironic.
It really is.
We do need the connection to nature, to people in person, and yet I find it quite satisfying, a lot of the Zoom stuff.
It is. It's very satisfying. I don't get a hug, but I do this. and the way I look at that is ME are the initials of Mother Earth. It also means me. And so when I hug me, I hug you. Oh, you're back with us, Joseph.
I got them all set up. I give, like Stan does, I give my link over to this group, and they're discussing Jungian book writings. And
the amount of knowledge that you have a grasp of and that you're able to bring forward is so incredible. I love the I Ching that you brought in and the contrast that you have with the Chinese astrology, and looking at that.
Thank you.
I would like to dive into that. But
we give me the strength to go on.
This is the fun part.
That's what it is.
Trying to figure it all out.
Yeah.
So we're going to make plans for getting together again, Joseph.
Well, thank you.
And I do really appreciate.
The slides are what I'm planning for Saturday. However, we would, if there's no time limits and such, we could interject more questions along the way, because it's very confusing when it first hits you. I tell you that it's all remembered stuff, but no, people have to go, whoa, and especially give me time to tell you what I make judgments by the color of your skin. Is that possible? And I think it is, but you don't know what judgments I'm talking about, and you're probably going much farther than I do, but in a gentle way. And I'll be happy to tell you all now if I've opened the subject and at the time. It's very brief.
I want to leave a breadcrumb to bring people into the the deep dive is going to be in this Zoom room on Saturday, July 1st at 8:00 a.m. Pacific time. That's 11 o'clock Eastern time.
7 o'clock in Anchorage.
Yeah, and I'm so sorry about that, but you said it was okay. And so we'll get him at what my mother would say, sparrow's fart. And so I'm going to, in the Facebook recording of this event, I'm going to put the invitation to come to Stan's Zoom room on July 1st. And we will hear more about judging people by the color of their skin and the I Ching and other things. And this is
Don't put that in the promo. I'm not promoting judging people.
No.
I am instructing people, and that my model includes considering skin color, just as I consider hair style and other parts that people would say, really? And then I'll justify.
And missing digits. And
boy, is that oh boy.
So there is a lot of things that we have to talk about, and I really look forward to it. Thank you so much, Joseph. I'm going to bring this to an end now. Thank you so much. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.